On the show today, I have Jenna. Jenna is 21. We met at the gym. We used to go to the same gym. And today she is here to talk about moving countries or relocating at a young age and the effect it has had on her identity and her relationships, family and friends.
Yeah.
Nerve-wracking.
Yeah, definitely, for sure. Excited to talk about it. Thank you for having me.
That's okay. You're welcome.
Yeah.
So we'll start with just a bit of a lighthearted question. How has your week been this week? What's going on for you?
Been going really good. A lot of prep to move. So excited to be with my family again.
Yep.
Heading on the kicker to Nelson.
So
sunny Nelson.
you're moving. Is your family moving there as well?
Yes, my family's already moved there, and they
cool.
all live together in Richmond and Motueka, so they're
Nice.
around that whole
Beautiful
beachy area
place.
and stuff. Yeah, so
Yeah.
it'll be good to be up with them.
Absolutely. Yeah, my son's mother is from Tapawera,
Oh, yeah.
and her parents lived in Brightwater for a while, which is
nice.
just out of Richmond or between. And it's just like Nelson is. I think it gets like some of the most sunshine hours out of anywhere in the country.
So
it's
relaxed,
such a beautiful place.
such a holiday living retirement place.
Yeah. I think house prices there in the last 10 years have just gone up.
For sure.
I'm not surprised.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. Well, yeah. Thank you for coming on the show, and I know you've got a lot to share, a lot of wisdom and things that you've learned from your experiences. Could you share a little bit about what life was like for you growing up in South Africa and why you moved to New Zealand as a teenager?
Yeah, so my parents relocated us. I was 15 at the time and my brother was 21. We just came because of the safety was just getting a little bit ridiculous.
Right. Yep.
Yeah, so we just decided to, my parents decided to move us, create a better life, better future for our kids. So very, very grateful that has happened.
Yeah.
Had so many opportunities since moving here. It's been great. Definitely thankful for that.
Yeah. Was so when you say safety, what part of South Africa were you in?
From Durban,
Durban.
the East Coast, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And is it known for being unsafe, or was it
So Cape Town, I would say everyone thinks is the most safe in South Africa.
Right. Is it down the bottom?
So that's on the West Coast.
On the West Coast.
Yeah,
right.
so they're on the other side of us. Yeah, but more touristy. Everyone comes to Cape Town if they're visiting South Africa, kind of thing.
Yeah, I've definitely heard of Cape Town more than I've heard of Durban.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, Cape Town is the capital city. It's not the capital city, but it's like where everyone vacates to.
I see.
For sure. Durban was a normal sized town. I'd say moving to New Zealand, it's a lot larger. I'd say probably Durban is about the size of New Zealand. The size is huge. Yeah, Africa's huge.
Oh, right.
So definitely Durban was a very big place, but we made such a good community and knew everyone knew everyone, same as like in New Zealand. And it's just you grow up with all the same people, but definitely a harder upbringing.
I can imagine. Yeah, you'd have to be a lot more vigilant and prepared for the unknown.
Definitely, always looking over your shoulder kind of thing. I mean, you do have times of the life where you just do normal day-to-day stuff, but definitely majority of the time you have that safety click on.
Because I guess if you don't, anything that would happen so fast.
Yeah, you've got to be so vigilant all the time. Yeah.
I remember having friends previously that had told me that, there's certain intersections you just wouldn't stop at.
Yeah.
You have your doors locked all the time.
Yeah, someone will grab you from your window.
Yeah. And it's like people in New Zealand just don't even have that.
No.
Any kind of mentality around that kind of stuff. I mean, for a long time, even in the 80s, 90s here, you'd leave your keys in the car when you went into the dairy.
So freeing.
Or your doors unlocked at night. I'm still actually really surprised at how many people just leave their doors unlocked at night.
No, I cannot. I cannot.
I know, I'm sure you'd be like almost over vigilant in those kind of situations.
Yeah.
But I cannot even have my door, if I go into my house, I normally lock my door behind me because the last thing you want is to come out of the bedroom, out of the shower or something, and someone's standing in your lounge. Yeah. And I guess in South Africa, the chances of that happening are a lot higher.
A lot higher, yeah. Very, very quick to happen. And I think moving here, you have that vigilant side of you that you're always like, you don't even notice it half of the time that you're just doing all these little things that prevent something from happening.
I think, to be honest with you, that would be a better way to be.
Yeah.
Personally, I think that having that kind of upbringing is an asset because life can turn at any minute.
Makes you so aware
where you are.
that it can happen. Yeah,
absolutely.
And then if it does happen, you're more equipped, you're a bit more prepared.
Yes, yeah, for sure.
Whereas I look at a lot of my New Zealand friends and I think that they're so sheltered, like being brought up in this lifestyle, although I've kind of envy them in a way, thinking that I wish I had that kind of softer upbringing, didn't have to worry too much, but definitely thankful that I did have that, because now,
Yeah.
going into adulthood, it's going to make me more of a protector.
Definitely, and you'll be able to pass on a lot of that to your kids and things as well.
Sure.
I think there's obviously a spectrum, like a sliding scale of safety. No one wants to be born in a war zone, but then South Africa's somewhere between New Zealand and a war zone.
Yeah, literally. At some points, even a war zone.
Yeah, and I can imagine, there's a lot of, like from what I understand, firearms, knife crime, that kind of stuff. I've seen videos of people doing heists on motorways, like there'll be a van just gets shot up and they use explosives to get into it and they take whatever's in it.
We laugh about it for looting. It's so funny when trucks will overturn, everyone's just woof, like a horde of ants straight around that truck, and they'll just loot.
Take whatever's there.
Take whatever they can and just go, because no one will find you.
No, true. And there's corruption within police as well.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Bribery is always on the cards in South Africa.
I guess it's when there's less money floating around or the value of the dollar's less and things like that, the police are more likely to take money.
Yeah, I think it's just the poverty rate is just ridiculous. So I think people do whatever they can to get a quick buck, I guess.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah. But definitely not the best police in the world.
No.
Definitely have to take matters into your own hands sometimes.
Yeah,
for sure.
yeah. I remember you had told me about something like that, wasn't it?
So my dad was in the community watch and it was pretty much, it happens in most communities. If you're not living in a gated community, you're just pretty much, there's a group of guys that'll come together and just call themselves a neighborhood watch. They'll gear up with whatever and they'll pretty much just become the police of the neighborhood and they'll take care of the neighborhood for you.
Yeah.
But you can't rely on the police there, unfortunately.
No, I can imagine there's plenty of people everywhere that want to be able to do that kind of stuff. And it's in somewhere like South Africa, you would get away with it.
Yeah.
Being a vigilante like that, but like in New Zealand, if you tried to do that, you'd get charged with doing that kind of thing.
For sure,
just very
frustrating. A lot of jail time.
I mean, I know that in with the ram raids and things like that, there's a lot of people, dairy owners would love to take this kind of stuff into their own hands.
You do, because you want to protect, but at some stage the government, the security of the area just sometimes can't take it into their own hands, and you feel like almost a sense of you need to do something or nothing will get done.
It goes against human nature, doesn't it, to kind of rely on the government to do everything for us.
Exactly that.
Especially when they're not doing the right things. You're just like, why am I losing my stuff all the time? Why am I losing money? Why is my safety at risk and I can't do anything about it?
It's hard though, because it's such a fine line between people taking things into their own hands but then following a certain criteria. Like if you didn't have that criteria, I suppose anyone could do anything. And
yes, that's right.
A little bit of a crazy society.
That's right. It would just, and things could escalate too.
Because everyone has their own opinion as to what's right and wrong.
That's right. And I can imagine too, if you're over in South Africa and you're the criminals then know that people are going to take things into their own hands, they escalate their behaviour too.
Yeah.
They're more likely to carry weapons. They're more likely to shoot first because they really feel like they're going to get shot otherwise.
Yeah. And you do a lot of learning. I'm not sure about other South African families, but my dad definitely brought me and my brother up to be very defensive and learn how to shoot a gun and learn how to use a taser and all this kind of stuff. It's crazy to think about that at such a young age, like 7 or 8, we're already starting to learn how to shoot guns, but it's kind of what's needed, really.
Yeah, I think it is. Yeah.
Shoot first or be killed.
Yeah.
Although that's horrible to say.
Again, it's one of those things that you want to have going on in the background rather than front and center. Yeah. You want to be prepared for it if it happens.
Exactly that. Yeah. And like I was saying to you last time, my dad we'd have mini drills, so to say, that we would figure out a route that if someone were to break into our house, what would we do and how would we protect ourselves and keep all of us safe. And it's just crazy to think that we live like that.
Yeah, I would just be just the same as your dad. Okay, so what were your initial feelings and thoughts when you first found out you would be moving to a completely different country?
That's a hard question. Yeah, that was horrible, to be fully honest. I was a little bit, also, where's New Zealand? Where's that on the
no
map?
One knows.
Did not have a cooking clue.
We're not even on some maps.
Literally
they don't even know about
had
us.
no clue. But then again, my geography is pretty bad, so that could play a part. But definitely all emotions that you can think, you're sad and you're also excited. You think of the exciting journey, but you think of all your family and what you're going to lose. So I think I'm very emotionally driven. So first initial thoughts were, oh my God, I'm not going to be around my family anymore. I'm not going to grow up with my cousins and I'm going to have to do things alone. And it was just very scary. And personally, I wasn't excited.
Yeah,
I was
you weren't
excited
excited.
because
So
I was like, my future, my kids
Right.
will be safe. I'm
Yep.
going to have a better future with myself.
Yep.
But I was also very gutted to be leaving everyone I know. Like
Yeah.
you grow up, you know, everyone from primary school to high school, you grow up with
Yes.
these people, that
Yeah.
that community, you are known, people know you. I mean, if you can't go to your family, there's someone that you can go to.
Yep.
Whereas you come to a new country and you're so isolated and
Oh,
you don't
yeah.
have anyone plus the 4 people in your house. So
Yeah, it's all your extended family and friends that you just
Yeah.
like. None of them are moving.
Yeah,
They're
and you
going
think,
about their
oh,
life as it was,
yeah.
and they have all their plans for the future
yeah,
and
and
everything.
then all
and-
those big events like weddings and engagements and birthdays, you think you miss
Oh,
all
yeah.
of those, and it's my little emotion side of me is a little bit sad, but
yeah,
definitely thankful because I'm gonna be able to give my kids, and my brother's gonna be able to give his kids a safer upbringing and do things that we never got to do, like walking on the streets at a younger age. Like
Yeah.
I know my brother probably would have done it at an older age, like going out alone, but as a kid I think I've only went out a few times with just my friends to the shopping mall. It was just
Really?
too dangerous. Your parents will drop you at the door and they'll pick you up at that door.
Yeah.
It's not the same.
We had New Zealand culture growing up was that you had to be home before the streetlights turned on.
Yeah, that's I think in a different generation.
I know, yeah, absolutely. But it's still, I mean, these days you'd still have in some towns and places and things it would still be the way it is.
Yeah.
And like even now, my son's 11, and when I was 11, I was skating into town on my
Crazy.
own from
Crazy.
Cashmere and Cashmere near the hills all the way into Christchurch town. So it would take me 15, 20 minutes to skate in there.
That's ridiculous.
But in saying that, one morning I went to the skate park. We skated into the skate park. We'd go and just go to Burger King throughout the day and get like free refills of
Wow.
drinks. But we skated into the skate park one morning and there was like this big pool of blood on the skate park. And we were
Yeah.
like, it was quite a bit. Like
Yeah.
I'd say at least 300 mils of
Yeah.
blood just like all over the ground. And
Yeah.
we're like, wow, this is clearly someone's been hurt here
Yeah.
recently. But then by like, an hour or two later, people had skated through it and things. I was like, this is really weird.
Yeah.
But you just I didn't even think at the time, a little bit of my brain was like, maybe this is an unsafe place to be.
Yeah,
but-
something can happen that's
but-
been left there.
Yeah. Also, I had been skating around on my own for years, like from 10 all the way through to like 12, 13. It's what we did. We skated everywhere.
That's crazy.
The only time I ever felt at risk was one night I'd snuck out of my dad's house and got on my push bike to go to my mum's to sneak her car out because she'd gone away.
Oh,
And I had cut a key to her
Yeah.
car. So I had my learner license like I wasn't
my
supposed to.
Lord.
But I like waited till like midnight and got on my bike and I was biking in the road. And there was this guy walking on the other side of the road and he was walking and he crossed towards me. And I was like, oh, okay. So I biked over the other side of the road.
Yeah.
He crossed over the other side. And I was like, oh, okay. And I came back over to the left. I waited till the last possible moment, came over to the left and he ran at me. And I went down a side street and I pedaled as hard as I could.
Dear
and I
Lord.
was just like, what was he going to do? Was he going to steal my bike? Was he going to hurt me? I don't know. I was probably
Yeah.
16, 15, or probably 15.
Crazy, yeah.
But I remember thinking, okay, maybe the world's not as safe as I thought it was, And that's
Yeah.
once in my whole life
Yeah.
that I've had something like that happen as a kid.
Yeah. But you think, like, you've grown up in this country, you've never really had something say, or something's
No.
unsafe. You have
Yeah.
to worry about something. You've just
Yes.
kind of in cruisy, like you're good to
Yeah.
go, which is insane. And I'm so excited. I love hearing stories about that when I hear people from this country say those kinds of things, because I
Yeah.
think my kids are going to be able to experience that, whereas I never did. So
No.
it'll be amazing to see.
Yeah. Yeah. How did your parents deliver it to you?
To be honest, I think a lot of that time has gone like a little bit blurry in my brain. Like I can't vividly remember exactly what had happened, but I do remember them sitting, me and my brother down, being like, we're planning on moving to New Zealand. They had been here about 7 years prior, wanting to move us. But then my grandpa got sick.
Right.
So we ended up staying in South Africa, and then, they revisited it. But they came and visited in October-ish.
Right.
And then they just went on a holiday and we were like, oh, our parents are going to New Zealand.
Oh,
And
they
that's when I
visited here.
kind of like was like, okay, never really thought of anything. I'm thinking it's like near Australia. That's all I could think of. Then they came back and we're like, so we're going to move there in December. So it was only a few months that we had really to take in.
Was it October to December?
Yeah, literally few months that I had to take in all of that, and I had to figure it out. And at the age of 15, you kind of are in that space where you understand what's going on, but you're also in between not really fully understanding.
Yes.
All I knew is that they explained it to us, like, we are moving you because we want a better future for you and your children, and safety. But yeah, definitely took it hard. Yeah, it wasn't the happiest moments.
So in hindsight, if you were to put yourself in your parents' position, how long would you want to give your kids to adjust if you were going to tell them?
To be fully honest, that's so hard to say because I don't think there is a right time or an amount of time to prepare yourself. But I do think they did give us a little bit of short notice in terms of like saying goodbye to everybody and I don't know, getting your full rounds of like letting it sink in that it's actually happening, because I feel like over those few months it didn't really sink in. Like I was even at the airport saying goodbye to my family, hysterically crying. It still hadn't sunk in yet that everything was gone, and it was only like the first few months of really living here that I was like, it's like you've died and you're in a new place, and it's as if all of those people never exist to you again, and you'll never really, because unless they come visit, you're never going to see them face to face again.
What was social media and things like then? Could you contact them easily?
Not very well. So Instagram and stuff was only like just starting at that age, and Snapchat and things, so I couldn't really communicate with them well. I do know that half of my family, our relationships just kind of dispersed when I moved here. Didn't really talk to anybody. No one really, I know it's harsh to say, but no one really cared about what was going on and how it would affect me, or like how it would affect my brother and my parents. So I think we did lose a lot of bridges. A lot of people resented us, saying you're giving up on our country, and so it was really difficult. And I think for my parents it was the hardest, and I think as a child I was also trying to understand where they were coming from, and that if I was losing 15 years of relationships, they were losing around 50 years of relationships and friends and family and nieces and nephews. They were really losing the brunt of it, and all their job experiences, and it just and I never really, because I was 15, didn't fully understand it. And I think over the last few years of being here and obviously growing into a little bit more of an adult, I've kind of sat back and gone, shit, they have given us such a sacrifice.
Absolutely.
Like their whole life, they were like, we're going to just scrap it all for our kids. And I think, whoa, it's such a bravery that I can't actually put into words.
It's very easy for us to look at our parents and go, oh, they've got it all figured out, and whatever they're doing it on purpose. But it's like they were doing their best at the time and making, like
it's
you say,
their first time living,
sacrifices.
first time doing everything. And they, honestly, I look back at it and I know my parents handled it genuinely the best that I could think a parent could handle it.
Right.
I know a lot was going on, and like they didn't really parent me as much when we moved here because they were so focused on other things and obviously the logistics of being here and keeping your family here. So there was a little bit of that going on, but they, honestly, I'm so proud of them. They did their best. And
that's so good.
Me and my brother are all right, so I think they're doing okay.
That's the main thing.
Yeah.
How did you find the process of adapting to a new culture and lifestyle in New Zealand as a teenager?
It was hard, to be fully honest. I think, you come here with your own quirks and slang and everything, and it's hard to kind of integrate that because you'll say things and people look at you all confused, or you'll be listening to conversations and you'll just be like, what is going on? I remember the first few months of being here, I was like baffled when people would talk to me. I was like, can you just slow down?
Really?
Don't understand you very well. So even though it's English, it's I can only imagine if someone wasn't English speaking and they came to this country, or any English speaking country, take my hat off to them. Even for me as an English speaking, it was so difficult, like just to understand slang and like mannerisms and what's acceptable or not in that society, and like you just it's a whole new ball game. You have to relearn everything, really. We've got New Zealand. What I noticed, or what I've learned as I got older, is that like English started in England, from what I know, and it's moved to places like, obviously the English left in America, as they speak English as well, and they integrate with whatever native languages are around them. Like there's a lot of Mexican or, Spanish in America, and then in England, they've got, the other cultures that are around them. Australia is like so far, removed from all of that. It's got its own stuff. And then we're even more removed from that again. Just so secluded.
And so all it takes is for me to be around someone who's English, who speaks quite proper, or someone who's American. And I'm like, oh my God, I have so many lazy habits in my way of speaking.
Exactly.
And then even people point out things we say like, like, you know,
Yeah.
so we might be like, I'm going on Tuesday, you're coming,
Yeah.
And they're like, or like, you know,
literally,
and,
you're like, beam.
and I'm like, is that a thing?
Get
like, and then I'm
lost,
like, oh, right, because I've been saying that my whole life,
Yeah.
you know?
And you don't notice it. It's like the smallest things ever. And I think I also very sheltered living in South Africa. You have your own way and it's just culturally acceptable. Everything that you say, everyone knows what you're saying because we're all part of the same upbringing. As soon as you get taken out of that environment, it's a completely different ball game.
I can imagine too, me going to South Africa, there'd be a lot of slang and words used and even words in Afrikaans that would get thrown in and stuff, and I'd be like, what are you guys even talking about, you know?
And you feel a little bit lost, like you kind of sit there and you kind of feel a little bit secluded and isolated a little bit, because sometimes you just sit there and you're like, I just wish I could understand and just be a part of it.
Yeah, because you don't, and it's so right. Everyone around you speaking a certain way, and because you don't understand it, you inevitably feel left out. Like you're an outsider. I'm not part of the group. I'm not in on the joke. I'm not in on whatever you guys are talking about. I can't even understand, like, because there's a lot in the words you use and the way you speak, you end up conveying a certain tone or how you're really feeling or what you mean, and it'd be hard for you to work out how people feel. Because they're using these words you're not familiar with, and you're like, is she happy? Is she sad? Is she, you know, what is she actually feeling?
And it takes a really good person. Like I definitely know that growing up in New Zealand, I've had a really good handful of friends that have like taken on kind of the job of integrating, helping me integrate and kind of explain things. So when people are having inside jokes, you've got those fair few that will be like, okay, so Jenna, this is what they mean. Like those few people that will just bring me into the conversation a little bit more.
Aren't those people gold?
Bless those people.
They are just so good. They're the people that are so empathetic and such good friends because they see you and they're like, that's something she'd want to know.
Exactly. They pick up on it, and I think that's such a good trait in a person.
Very good. Yeah.
Very thankful to all those people. Yes. You know who you are.
We need those people.
We do.
We really
more
do.
and more of those people, And I definitely think, like, I can only imagine being a different culture or even a different race coming into this country and trying to integrate even further. Like if you don't speak the language, it must be so difficult. But like I said, definitely ups to those people that do bring you into the conversation and recognize that. Yeah.
So what, apart from that, the way we speak, what's one other big difference that you noticed? One that really stood out to you that you had to work to overcome?
I'm not too sure, actually. On the top of my head, I can just think the cultural difference is huge. Like, South Africans are very out there, bubbly, big personalities, loud. Whereas New Zealand's like quite laid back and everyone's just cruisy and just
I remember you saying that to me.
And it's kind of difficult because you feel in a way that you don't want to be too much. You don't want to be too loud and too energetic and too like your own culture, because people may look at you and be like, that's weird kind of thing. So you do, I think, tone down. Personally, I tone down my personality quite a lot. Right. Trying to fit in.
Which is sad.
It is so sad. I look at it and I'm like, why did I ever think that it would be cool to be like everyone else? Like I was fresh meat. I was exciting. Why did I try and change that? So
But no, I think it's normal because again, you wanted to integrate into the culture and you didn't know how far
you're
you had
a teenager.
to go.
You're still trying to find your own identity at the same time. So it's it was such a hard ball game to
It's so scales
juggle.
though, isn't it? Like you come into the environment, you probably go to extremes to fit in, and then you're like, actually, no, I'm dialing it back.
Yeah. Like you sit there and you question all your morals and everything. Like in South Africa, we grew up Christian, believing in God, and that was like our personalities. Like we went to schools that were Christian, we'd pray and stuff. So coming to a country that's not the norm, you lose a lot of your morals and things like, I remember speaking to someone about this and it makes me really sad to think about it, but at a young age in New Zealand, it's so acceptable to start drinking and drugs and cigarettes and stuff and like experimenting with sex. And you think
13, 14 sometimes.
I think that is so young. And knowing that my culture in South Africa, I can't speak for everybody, but in my community, we had a very Christian culture and not a lot of people were doing that that I knew of in my circle. So it was kind of a huge shocked when I got here and everyone was like, oh, so have you done this? Oh, have you done this? Have you tried this? And I'm going, no. And I feel like this little pure innocent thing, but it was just so not normal to me. And then I felt like if I thought about those things, I was so wrong and naughty and gross and my parents would be so disappointed. But like it was hard to juggle where my morals were and where I've come from in my upbringing as to what everyone's telling me I should be doing. And like I said, it's that age that you're trying to find yourself, and now you're trying to find yourself pressure. In a new country with different culture.
Yeah, that's right. You've spent half of your life so far, or your whole life so far, into this era where you're finding your independence basically with one set of rules. And then you've come into a new place where the social pressure and expectations are to do things completely differently. And you're like, but this isn't what I've been leading up to. I've been leading up to a different life.
I wasn't prepared for this.
No,
Honestly, I sat back and I was like, I don't want to.
No, and I think it's good that you didn't, because a lot of those things when people in New Zealand, because in New Zealand culture, you do a lot of stuff young. I mean, I remember people were smoking weed at my intermediate, which is 12. 11, 12, think, and I was like, whoa, that's
and it's
big.
Getting younger by the years, and it's so sad.
Yeah.
It's so sad.
Yeah.
And I just wish that parents would kind of push more of those morals onto their kids to say that that's not acceptable. Like I look at kids these days around probably 13 going upwards, starting to vape, and I'm like,
oh, I know. And
what are you doing?
Yeah, society and the government has a lot to say about, has a lot to answer to for that, for that as well, for that. Because vaping's far too easy to access and far too easy to get addicted to. But I think the main thing is that we need to teach our kids how to think, rather than what to think,
and mainly just what your opinion is. If you think that's right or wrong, and don't let other people sway you, it's so easy to get peer pressured.
I didn't get any education on drugs from my parents because they never did it, or they didn't know it. They didn't know about it, which is fine. And obviously I've got my history with it. But with my son, when he's 11, he's asked me about what cocaine is.
Yeah.
And I told him. Yeah. And I told him why people do it.
Yeah.
Generally how it makes them feel. Tried to compare it to things that he has already experienced. So like, that time you drank a whole can of energy drink and I didn't know about it.
And you felt like great.
And you felt like you're really like not okay. I was like, most people who do cocaine are looking for that type of feeling. Yeah, and they're looking to feel a lot of energy and happy, but they're forcing themselves to be happy. And then I say to them, it's like cheat codes in a game.
Yeah.
You're cheating.
Yeah.
You're pretending, you're telling your body to be happy when you're not actually happy. Yeah. So I said, this is what drugs do for people. They tell their body to be relaxed when they're not relaxed. Yeah. They tell their body to be, satisfied when they're not satisfied.
And it's so sad you think that kids at such a young age are reaching for that because they think it's cool. Like, when did it ever become cool?
I know. Well, it's cool because it's what adults do.
Yeah.
And it makes me an adult. And especially younger kids, they're moving into their independence, like you say, early in their teens. Yeah. They're like, oh, this makes me more of an adult than you.
Yeah.
Because I did this.
And you can tell your friends that story and you become so cool because
you get a reputation.
you've done it before that age.
Did you know he's done that?
Yeah.
You
That's crazy.
Yeah. So I think that's where the temptation comes in, as long as you can remove the coolness from it.
Yeah.
It's not cool. And I say that to Flynn all the time. I'm like, when he talks about vaping and people trying it, I'm like, mate, everyone I know who starts vaping wants to stop at some point and can't.
Yeah, exactly.
Like they feel sick, they hate it, but they still keep doing it.
It's such a bad train to go down. But you come from, I was so sheltered and so like never knew these things and never even wanted to experience them, to coming to a country where everyone was like, oh, have you tried it? Oh, have you tried it? And then trying it for the first time, hating it, but also then that guilt of having to, now I've done this, I feel so guilty. I need to tell someone. Yeah. And the only people that I can tell are my parents.
Yeah, I remember you saying that.
And then my parents look down on me because it's not normal in my family, and we've been brought up that that's wrong. Yeah. You shouldn't be trying those things because there's no reason to. Yeah. And I just felt like I had done the world of wrong. I felt like I should have gone to jail. I was being so wrong for doing what I did.
If you so now reflecting on that, would you say that your parents have, I guess, not changed the way they see it, or would they react differently now compared to when they did?
Yeah,
react?
I think they understand that. At the time, I think they understood. They moved me to a new country. There are different norms here. Yeah. It's not all the same. No. But I think they were obviously to a degree disappointed because they thought that they would have instilled that in me, that that's wrong. And then I would have gone and tried it. And there's that little bit of disappointment there as a parent. But,
and they're dealing with it for the first time too.
And having to figure out how to navigate that. So I think for them, there's no right way to really deal with it. No. But I think, to be honest, they could have dealt with how it had gone a lot better and been a little bit more soft and understanding. Yes. Whereas as South African parents, my dad was like, oh my God, I can't believe you've done this. And I remember it was the same thing with like, having sex for the first time. Like you can only go to my parents. I didn't have friends. I didn't have family that I could talk to about it beforehand. So being young and curious and then having done something like that, you want to go to your protectors and be like,
you need their advice.
Yeah, what have I done? How do I go from here? It was very confronting. And I remember telling you that my brother had obviously done all of this stuff in South Africa and figured out his way. And he had other people to talk to. He had aunties and uncles to go to, friends, parents, so many more people in a community to go to with these things before coming to his parents, the real like judge and jury. Whereas I didn't have that. So for my parents, it was kind of like going through that the first time really, because I'm coming to them being like, oh my God, I've done this stuff. And they sitting there thinking, oh my God, we've got a devil child, like the one that's really a rebel and trying all these things. Our angel son never did that. Meanwhile, he probably did. He just never told you about it.
It's better at hiding it.
So it was, very confronting. And I think it did taint our relationship for a while because I was so scared to come to them for things, because that fear of judgment and them obviously may not have gone through it with my brother, so thinking that they were going to judge me hardcore and be disappointed in me as a child. So a lot of it I kept hidden and like try to figure out on my own, but eventually I was like, hey, listen, I need to talk to you about this. I cannot hold it any longer. Please don't hate me.
And you just needed their guidance and a bit of like,
and they got there eventually,
that you're okay.
They got there eventually. They learned how to talk to me about it and not get angry.
That's good. I'm glad they got there. So this question we may have already covered, but were there any moments or experiences that made you feel out of place or challenged when you got here?
There's a lot of scenarios I can think of, but mainly I would say schooling was really difficult, like trying to find a clique. Everyone, and fully honest, that's perfectly fine. I would have probably been the same in South Africa, not knowing, because you're young, you don't really understand the struggles. So being that you'd have to try and incorporate yourself into friend groups that have been with each other since intermediate or younger, and try and make yourself known in a group. It's really difficult to integrate into that because everyone's got their people and they don't really want anything new to come in. And I think that was genuinely the biggest hurdle, is trying to make friends. And I still really struggle with that because you can't go into a clique, especially as an adult. It's so much harder to go into a clique because everyone's either got their people or they just have those boundaries against people that aren't like them.
I think people who are group orientated, they like to know where they fit within the group. And when a new person comes in, they're like, oh,
changes,
are you taking my place, or are you like outdoing me in these areas, or are you a threat? Do you have good intentions? And for some people, that mental gymnastics isn't worth it. They're like, I don't even want to do it. So let's just not.
So it was. I know that I made a really good friendship with my best friend Sylvie, because we were both new to the school. And that's how we kind of got close, because we were both outsiders. So we just kind of clicked together, of made a bond. And I think that's honestly what happens when anybody moves here. Like you do kind of gravitate towards people that are like you in a sense, like other immigrants or South Africans. Like a lot of people say, oh, South Africans just want to keep in their own clique. It's not because it's easy. It's because it's something that you know, whereas you try with other cultures and it can be so difficult and so emotionally draining that sometimes it is just that little bit of a relief to know that you can go to somebody or a group of people and be accepted straight away.
I can imagine if I was in another country and I came across other Kiwis, I'd be like, it'd be like a breath of fresh air. It would be like, oh, I know you guys know what it's like to live. Whereas like the new culture could, there's all these differences that you're dealing with day to day. And it's until you've been there for years. I think even if you had been somewhere for years, it must still be refreshing for you when you meet other South Africans here.
And it's so hard to explain it to somebody that's not been through it. I know I say South Africans, but there's immigrants in just general. If you have immigrated, you have got a better worldly knowledge, a better understanding of what it's like to be taken from your home or chosen to move from your home and to start afresh. Nobody knows how to do that if you haven't done it. So it's so difficult to get people to get on your level and understand where you're coming from in so many different conversations, because they just, and it's not their fault, they just have never dealt with it and never had to deal with all the implications that come with it. So it's hard.
I know there's often there's groups of expats all together, like
Yeah.
it's, and they might be from different countries, but they all have that common thing.
And when I moved here, not moved when I moved here, but a few years later when I'd started living on my own, I went and found a flat. And funny enough, I found a flat with other immigrants. The guy and girl were Brazilian and Dutch, and I just felt like we could just have that common ground. And we did. We'd have dinners and talk about what it's like immigrating and traveling and our different cultures, and you just have that extra level of understanding.
You see other people are going through it from different perspectives, even from yourself. It's like, oh wow, she's got it even harder in that aspect, or he's got it, better, or whatever. Yeah.
But it's so good and very refreshing to have conversations like that with people. But it's better when you do talk to people like that when they've had that experience, because they can empathize and be on your level and really truly fully understand.
Yes, I can imagine. So how did the move at your age at the time at 15 affect your relationship with family and friends? I know you touched on it before. I think with my parents, it was very touch and go. Like, they were the only people. It was literally just me, my mum, dad, and brother. So it was really enclosed, just the four of us figuring it out. So we became really close as a family, but at the same time became really far. I know that my parents and our relationship wasn't the best when I was moving here, because obviously I'm a teenager. I was being rebellious. I was hating on them kind of attitude. My brother was going through that stage of, why'd you move us here? Like, all my friends are back in South Africa, that little bit of that just time. And he had a partner over there as well.
Yeah, he did at the time. So there was that little bit of, I've left her there. Was it a good decision to make kind of thing? So it's very much like tainted our relationship. But I think over the years and growing up, I've just kind of realized that what they've done, and it kind of makes sense why they were so isolated as parents and not really hands-on per se. My parents are great, don't get me wrong, but they were very despondent at the time and fully fair. They were going through so much that I couldn't even understand. So I think our relationship just became a little bit stretched apart. But being older and realizing what they went through, I'm more like trying to push myself back towards them and be like, I understand. I want to shake them and say thank you so much for everything you've done.
Yeah, I know that feeling inside out, because as I've got older, especially having a son, and then feeling I had him at the same age my dad had me. So every year that it goes by, I'm like, I was that age when he was that age, and so the more I look back, the more I'm like, thank you so much.
Yeah, you get that understanding.
Parents, both my dad and my mum, just for how much work they put in and how much they sacrifice for themselves for me and my sister.
For sure. And I definitely, look at my parents with so much gratitude that they've done such a good job. And any immigrant parent, it's such a hard place to navigate. Like, you got to figure out yourself. Like I said, they've left 50 plus years of family and friendships, connections to just bring you up in a new country. And they're doing it alone as well. So can be quite sad.
To them. So looking back, can you identify any turning points or significant events that helped you start to feel more integrated and at peace?
Not off of the top of my head that I can think of, but I definitely know and would 100% recommend to anybody is, even if you don't think you need it, is go to therapy. Like going to therapy just to understand my feelings and emotions, where it was all coming from. Because I'm a very emotionally driven person, whereas like my brother and dad, for example, are very stern South Africans. They don't believe in emotions. So you kind of sit there and you want them to go through the same things you do, like as in therapy, but they're just so hard-headed against it. Whereas I look at my experience and I'm so grateful that I did just talk about it and have the space to talk about it and just be vulnerable, because it can be so hard to do. That's just complete turning point. As soon as I went to therapy, I've been better ever since. Like I don't regret a lot of things. I look back at it and I'm like, okay, I did treat my parents not the best. I was very hateful towards them for moving us here, and you look back at it and you're like, I'm so sorry I ever treated you like that. But I've kind of gone to that point where I'm not as regretful of doing that. I'm more understanding. I was a kid. I didn't understand what was going on, but now I can apologize for it.
You put a lot of that down to therapy and just talking about how you felt and having that reflected back to you.
It's so good to reflect it. And I know one thing that my therapist did for me, which was monumental, is we literally just drew a timeline of my life. So from then until now, and what were significant parts that I felt altered me and what had changed? What were big significant things?
Yeah.
And they were down to the smallest things that were so significant for me, where someone would look in and be like, that's so small.
Yeah.
Like, how did that impact you so much? But it does. It just chain reaction into everything else that unfolds.
Yes.
But it's so good to stand back and then look at it, visually see where you think things have happened, and kind of just reflect on that and be like, okay, I could do this better next time if that were to happen again.
Yes, absolutely.
You look how you reacted.
I think therapy is, from what I know, where anyone in New Zealand who is a citizen here is entitled to up to 5 free therapy sessions or counsellor visits per year. Do they just have to go to their GP? Yeah. Which is something that no one knows about, no one takes advantage of.
That's so cool. Good to know.
Yeah, I would encourage anyone to go to a counsellor, just to encourage them to kind of like open up a bit about how they're feeling. I feel like if you're not willing to talk about how you feel, it will come out in how you treat people.
Exactly.
And it will come out in how you cope.
Yeah.
And so you're not very good at coping.
Yeah.
If you're going to deal with some heavy shit, you're not going to be very good at coping.
Yeah.
And other people around you are going to suffer.
Exactly.
So that's the biggest consideration to take in if you are thinking about talk to someone.
Yeah. And not only do it for yourself, it is exactly that. Do it for the people around you, because you don't even realize that what your emotions are doing is impacting how you treat people, like you said. And I look back at it and exactly that. Therapy has just opened my eyes to, that's how I treated people, but I treated people because I was in this state and I hadn't handled it properly. I didn't know how to handle it properly. Now that I've got those kind of tools to figure out this is where I went wrong and this is what I should do better, I can navigate it a little bit better in the future.
Yeah, that's
right. It's so good to have that eye-open moment.
What a life hack.
Literally.
It's like the ultimate life hack.
It literally is. And everyone says that, and you never think that you need it until the day that you're just like, let me just go and stop being pathetic about it. Because it is. South Africa, it's so looked down upon going to therapy. Like, you're so weak if you go to therapy.
It must
got
be
such a bad
especially
stigma.
for men too. Like, it's like, because they're strong men.
100%. And then you look at it and you're like, it's actually the most vulnerable and strong and brave thing you can do is be vulnerable and go to therapy and actually talk about your feelings.
Yeah, that's it's such a twisted thing for a lot of people, but understanding that if you being vulnerable and taking ownership takes real strength.
It does.
If it is hard to do, that shows it's not weak. It's massive. Like, it's a huge deal. And confronting those feelings, if something makes you anxious or afraid or scared or you feel like it's going to be bad, you should probably do it.
100%, yeah. It is one of those things that you just have to just jump for it and just go do it, because honestly, it's nothing better talking about it. Yeah, I totally agree. How did your sense of identity evolve as you navigated these challenges and integrated it into New Zealand culture? Like, if you compare like your South African roots to who you are now, and what's changed in how you see yourself? Do you see yourself as a South African living in New Zealand, or do you see yourself as a New Zealander? No, I definitely see myself as South African living in New Zealand. Like, I definitely have tried to keep my culture, and it's so hard to do because you're constantly around a different culture, and it's so easy just to get into that mode of, oh, let me just put on a little bit of a twang so that people can understand me and I don't have to try so hard, Yeah. But it's so draining that you look at it and you're like, no, I just want to be South African and just be authentically myself. And I think I have integrated, I've become that like mix of South African Kiwi. I know a lot of people say that my twang's kind of going away and makes me really sad. I want to cry when people tell me that. Yeah. But it's definitely... It's still there, don't worry. Like, you sound South African to me. Yeah, but I definitely want to keep it and keep it alive, because it's such a beautiful culture, and there's nothing... Being a South African, there's nothing better than being a South African. Like, I absolutely love it. And I cannot believe I ever came here and thought, no, I should try and be like a Kiwi so that people can understand me. It'll just be an easier life onwards. I was stupid for ever thinking that. No, but yeah. I think it's normal to think that. But at the same time too, this is how you establish your identity. Yeah. It's nice to step outside of South Africa for a bit and see, oh, maybe I want to be like this, and then go, actually, fuck no, I am proud to be this. Yeah. I didn't realize, there's a lot of times in my life where I had to actually try to be something else to realize how much I was proud of who I am. Yeah, who you are, for sure. I think I look at it and I'm like, I was so South African, come here, tried to be something I'm not. And then, exactly that. Trial and error, hated it. I was like, that's not who I am at all. I cannot be that way. It's just a facade. I could never be like that. And now I'm just myself. Like, if people don't like how loud I am, that's your problem. Yeah. There's a door. Isn't it funny too, because there's so many different types of people out there, but there are legitimately people who
move to other countries and they're like, I don't want to be who I was anymore.
Yeah.
They're like, I'm Australian
Create
now.
a new one.
Or
Yeah.
or I'm American
Very
now.
true,
And like, I notice people who go to other places and they want to pick up the accent. They want to start talking like that. They almost put it on, like you say, and I think you'd probably go back to South Africa and talk and people would be like, oh, you don't, what's that? What's that accent? And but it would only take you probably a month of living there.
Yeah.
And then you'd come back to New Zealand and people would be like, whoa, you're like thick
fresh
South
off
African.
The boat. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it is dependent on how much you really love your culture. Like personally, I've always loved the South African culture and there's no other way to explain it. I know people go, oh, well, explain what a South African culture is to you. And I'm like, you can't explain it. It's your hias. Like it's just your soul and everything that you are. And I think it's just
what
something
was that word?
It's you just an Afrikaans word. Yeah.
Is that an Afrikaans word?
Yeah.
Right.
Somewhat. I don't know the direct translate, but that's what it is. It's like your soul and who you are.
Right. How's it spelled?
GEES, I think.
Right. And would it be used in like a religious context? Like
No.
No?
No.
Right. Cool.
Yeah,
it's my first South African word that I've learned.
Yeah. It's a hard one to explain. I don't even fully know what it means, but yeah, every South African uses it. And yeah, it's in terms of like your soul and who you are and the person you are, your personality deep down.
Spirit.
So yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely, I wouldn't change a thing. I'm glad I trialed and errored trying to be a different culture and figuring it out here, but I'm definitely glad I'm back to who I am.
Yes.
That oomph.
Yep. Yeah. Staunchly represent it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, cool. Okay, so what aspects of your South African heritage do you feel have been most important or influential in shaping you and who you are today in New Zealand?
I don't even know.
Might be a complicated
Can you
question.
repeat that question one more
so
time?
What aspects of your South African heritage do you think have like been the most influential in shaping who you are today?
I don't even know.
If there's no answer, it's okay.
Yeah, there's no answer to that one. I can't even think straight with that one. That's a lot of words.
I know, it's quite complex. I guess the question would be to be about like, what things do you think have been very valuable in the way that you've been brought up that have really helped you coming here? Has there been anything? Like,
anything's helped me from there to come here. It's completely
so
different. Yeah, it's actually so different. There's nothing that I've gone, oh yeah, I did this in South Africa, that'll help me here.
Yeah, right. No, so they're just completely different.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
Nothing's helped me. Yeah.
That's a good answer to the question.
Figuring it out.
Yeah, cool. Okay. Were there any specific experiences this is kind of like the question earlier. Were there any specific experiences or people in New Zealand that helped you feel more at home or helped you adjust?
Yeah, so we did. We've met, I know everyone's going around going, oh, there she goes again, but South Africans, we met a whole bunch of South Africans, and when you meet them, you feel like you're back at home again, and you go have a braai and you just chat shit and have a good time. And I think every single time I've had a braai, I feel back at home. Like I feel like I'm not in a different country. I just feel like a braai.
What's a braai?
It's like a barbecue, but South African barbecue, but it's on coal and proper fire.
Oof.
Definitely would recommend. Don't use this gas
like
bullshit.
Like a charcoal barbecue. I know, that reminds me of my youth.
But it's not a barbecue because barbecue is considered gas.
Okay, so
a braai is just charcoal.
Charcoal cooking food.
Yep.
On a grill.
Yep.
Right, yeah, so old school.
Come rain, shine, you're out there.
A little bit of lighter fluid, some charcoal, you're away, meths.
Ready to go.
Is that how you start it?
No, just a fire lighter and then the coal.
Just fire lighter and the charcoal, right.
Yep. Such a good time. And there's that, like, I don't know, it's just a good time. I know that a braai for our culture is so inclusive, and it's just when you really come around, you have a couple of drinks and you just chat shit and talk about life, you get so in depth with them. So I know that keeping that running has definitely kept me South African in a way, because it's something that we did in South Africa so often that just brings me back and makes me feel like
there'd be the smell of the charcoal and the food and the atmosphere and everything and all the South African accents
on there and you just Is
everyone speaking Afrikaans?
No, we don't speak Afrikaans. We're all English speaking, so we all just speak South African and just English.
Was it like that when you were in South Africa too? Did you speak English in South Africa? Right.
So I was in Durban. We're English brought up and we just all speak English, but we've obviously all got our twang. But yeah, we definitely learn Afrikaans in school. It's like any other language, but it is one of those languages we do speak, we do from really young, just because it's such a big language in the country that it just takes you places if you do know it.
I guess English is taking over everywhere, isn't it?
But definitely, braais just, bring me back to my culture and heritage and just make me feel more South African and more like in my roots kind of. Yeah.
Cool.
It's the only thing I can think of.
I can imagine it'd be the same. I mean, a barbecue here is the same thing. It's a very New Zealand culturally, the way it would be conducted and done.
Yeah.
You'd take that over and you do it somewhere else. You did it in the States. They'd have their own way of doing things, and you'd be like, this is a little bit off.
Yeah.
It's just a little bit off.
Exactly.
And they'd be calling it something else.
Yeah.
They'd be referring it to in a different
I
way.
remember you guys had a potluck. Never knew what a potluck was. I don't know if it's just me or it's other people that came here and didn't know, but I had no idea what a potluck was.
Right, there's nothing similar.
I don't remember anything similar, but that's all I can remember. That was something that I was like, what's that? And people were like, oh, you just bring your own stuff and then we all share. And I was like, okay, cool. Because usually with like a bra, you'll bring your own meat and drinks, and then like the host will usually make like a salad.
I see.
And that's how kind of it works.
Right, and you cook your own meat and eat it. And you don't share it with anyone else.
No,
right.
So that's it. But sometimes you do. Like when you go to your family and you have a family bra, then everyone will be like, oh, I feel like some chopsticks or something. Not chopsticks. What are they called? What are they called? Kebabs? You'll be like, oh, I feel like a kebab. And then you'll just go for it. But like when you go and you meet new people, it's you bring your own meat. You buy your own meat, so you eat your own meat.
So if I was to turn up somewhere with some like steak, would I give it to the host to cook or would I cook it?
Either or. You can stand around the bra with them and just toss your meat. If you feel like it, you just chill. Yeah. Right. And it's usually the men that bra that coming nowadays, women feel a little bit more like, I can do it too. I'd be happy. Men take over. You go cook the food.
You do that stuff.
Because the women will do the preparing, and that's such a South African thing. Like, you've got your roles.
Yeah, and I guess it's nice. There wouldn't be people contesting that too much because it's just what they naturally fit into. Men like to stand around and cook meat.
Exactly. And they like to talk shit and drink beer.
And women just do the same thing, preparing in a different environment.
Exactly that. In the kitchen, buttering rolls.
That's right. Yeah.
For sure.
Cool. Okay, so reflecting on your journey, what valuable lessons have you learned about yourself and the world around you through this experience?
I think I've learned a lot of patience with myself, knowing that I'm going to grow, I'm going to make mistakes, I'm going to learn, because it's not an easy place that I've been put into, and the same with other people that have been brought here from their family, and it's not their exact decision to come here. You get put in this position and you kind of have to navigate it on yourself. So you have to just be so patient with yourself and so forgiving, and realize that it's okay to make mistakes or if you mess up, because you're just figuring it out like everybody else. And if anything, you're figuring it out with a little bit more of a challenge. You've got to try and fit into a culture at the same time. So definitely a lot of patience. What was the question again?
Reflecting, what valuable lessons have you learned about yourself and the world around you?
I think I've learned that the world is not as friendly as you'd think it would be. I think coming here, I thought it would be a lot easier to make friends at school and stuff. And then realizing that you really have to put in the hard yards for that to happen. Like, it's not something that I just thought I'd come here, everyone would be like, something cool, new, be friends with her. But not like that. It's so hard to actually make solid friends and solid people that take you for who you are with your culture and everything, even though you're different, got two different upbringings.
It'd be interesting going the other way. So like a Kiwi going to South Africa, what challenges they would have. Because they'd probably find they'd be really underprepared for how dangerous it is, for example.
For sure.
How do you think South Africans would treat a Kiwi coming into school? Would it be the same? Would it be similar?
I remember having foreigners coming into my school and us being really excited and being like, oh my God, something new. And we would like fully be like, bombarding them with questions. So what do you do in your country? What is this? Oh my God, that exists. And I had that coming here. But it wouldn't last very long with those friendships. It would be people coming up to me and being like, oh, did you have toilets in South Africa? Oh, did you have houses? Oh, did you like ride lions? And
because
like,
they think of Africa.
Stuff.
Honestly.
But then it's hard to kind of cross that bridge of you want to ask me so many questions, but do you actually want to get to know me, or are you just trying to like...
They just want to know about the world.
Just want to know something.
And then if you've got a big personality too, they're like, whoa, okay,
exactly that. It's very intimidating, I think.
I can imagine.
But I'm very glad that I've kept it and just been like, oh, well, don't like me.
It would be tough too that you've got this mindset of it being this safe place. So you're like, they're all going to be welcoming. And then you get here and you're like, it's safe, but it's not welcoming.
You feel like isolated, and I'm like, oh, what am I going to do with the safety? I can finally go and walk on the beach by myself and no one's going to go with me.
No one's, that's right,
It is,
Oh, yeah, I know. I can imagine it was really tough, especially at that age too.
Yeah.
Okay, so on that topic of age, like what advice would you give teenagers or even families who were going through a similar situation between like countries?
Yeah.
Or
I think my personal main piece of advice would be you've only got each other. So just be kind to each other, be understanding of each other. And if you make mistakes, don't like be super out there and angry at anything. Like just genuinely put yourself in their shoes and just be tight-knit as a family, because it's all you're going to have at the end of the day. That's all you're going to be able to run to.
Yeah.
So genuinely just love your family and don't hate on them, because I look back and I'm like, I wish I just took such more care of my family and just, that's my biggest thing. Is it just,
I guess it's hard when you're mad at them, eh?
Yeah.
For whatever reason.
Yeah.
And holding them accountable for something they're going through at the same time.
And at that age, it's hard to say. It's hard to say, I'll be good to your parents, because at that age, I would have never listened to somebody if they told me that. I would have been like, well, they've done this to me and they put me in this position. So it's so hard to like kind of say.
Oh,
but
I know.
I do know that, the best thing that I can say is just genuinely be close with your family, because they will you out.
And so on that topic, who would you think, or who would you let know that you appreciate them in this situation?
Just my mom, dad, and brother.
Yep.
And since my uncle's moved here, my uncle's been a huge, he's not really my uncle, he's my dad's cousin, but he has made such a huge impact. He's got a personality just like me. He's so forgiving. And my parents and my brother, just such tight-knit. Like we've become so close, I think. Like I actually miss them all the time.
Yep.
So that's something I'm really super excited to be with them again. Like, I've missed them so much. So I'm so thankful for them. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. And I'm so excited. I'm going to get to spend time with them all the time. My dad wants to go fishing all the time.
Yep.
And my brother wants to take me golf, apart from the fact that he says I can't come with him and his friends because I'm not that good yet.
Right.
I'll be taking too long. So, very excited to spend time with them again. And, my parents, we've all they've got. They don't have friends here or family. So just to spend more time with them and be more present, I'm super excited for.
Well, let's hope Nelson brings you all more connections, more friends and things like that.
Praying.
It's even more laid back than Christchurch. So.
No, they've actually got a really good community up there already. Like they've got a lot of friends that they've made that are South Africans, funny enough, but other Kiwis as well. But they've made some really good connections up there, which I'm excited to join in on, because I've met a few of them and such good people.
Awesome.
A good vibe up there, I think.
Yeah, it's very positive up there, I think. Okay, so from here, last question, what are you currently focusing on and what plans and aspirations do you have for the future?
I'm currently just focusing on my job and my move. I'm trying to obviously go and settle there. I've never really settled in one place. Like we moved here to Christchurch and then I moved myself to Wanaka, moved back, moved flats among here, and then now deciding to go to Nelson. So I'm just excited to kind of hopefully find something that's settled down for me a little bit more like this is it kind of thing, because I'm kind of tired of like this jumping around and not really knowing where I belong. So mainly just focusing on finding my niche when I'm there.
Cool. And
just working hard in my job, upping my job, hopefully finding good connections up there. And being a really close bond with my family. That's all I aim for this life.
I'm sure you'll find that. I think it's moving now must be just like, moving cities must be just nothing compared to moving countries.
Nothing at all. I think it's so easy. I'll talk to people and I'm like, oh, you should move. They're like, that's so difficult. It comes with so many things. I'm like, no, it's easy.
So many people think that way. I know.
Just moving my stuff.
My last guest, Beck, she's moving to Ireland, and I was like to her, I was like, oh, that's such a big thing, because to me it would be. Yeah. And she's like, I don't see it as such a big thing. And I was like, oh, right,
has she moved before?
I don't think so. I can't remember. Okay. I might have to edit that out.
Yeah, that's
I should know.
That's
but
okay.
No, I won't know. Yeah. But I felt like for me, I mean, they're moving over there because her partner is from there, and so they'll have his family there, you know. Yeah. But like for me, moving to the other side of the world, I'd be like, oh my god, the thought of being away from all my family, because I'm really close with mine as well, would be so daunting.
It is. And you think of things like your family passed away when they're there, and you don't really come to terms with that kind of stuff. You kind of just think you're going to go back one day and they're all still going to be there. So that's kind of something I'm not looking forward to. But again, therapy helps you deal with that. Definitely the kicker.
Oh no, absolutely. Okay, well, cool. Thank you for coming on. That's all the questions we have.
Okay.
But I really appreciate your vulnerability and talking about these kind of things. And I hope that there will be, and I'm sure there will be other people out there that will get so much value from this.
I hope there will be, I think that's the whole point of this, was just to bring awareness that maybe someone was going through a similar situation.
Yes.
And if anyone wants to reach out,
Yes, that's true.
because it's so helpful when you speak to somebody that's gone through something similar.
Yeah, are you okay with me putting your Instagram in the
course.
title, in the description, just so that if there's anyone out there who's going through a similar thing, if they're
Reach
moving
out.
from countries, reach out, and that you can obviously give them your insights and guidance and stuff. That would be so valuable.
Yeah. I mean, I can't speak on the side of things with actual immigration laws and things, because I was 15 and I moved here. I literally just wrote it on the back of my parents.
Yep.
So, but just speaking about like getting over it emotionally and figuring out that you're actually okay and the world's not going to come to an end, that you're in the new country. Yeah, definitely. I can talk to people about that for sure.
Yeah, no, that's perfect.
Yeah.
Cool, well, thank you. I really appreciate your time. That's okay.
Thank you.